everyone, welcome to Motor Psychology from wherever you are in the world. My name's Jonathan. If you're new here, welcome and thanks for joining. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So in today's video, it's part 2 of the upper right control arm. What you'll see in this video is cleaning the junk off of the control arm. Then I'll be removing the riveted ball joint, which means grinding and tapping out the rivets. After that, I will be getting the rubber out of the bushings and then getting the bushings off of the control arm. So stick around, enjoy the video, and let's get into it. Okay, here we are. We're going to start the cleaning and reconditioning of this control arm. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is degreasing it a little bit and cleaning it up and seeing how that goes. After that, I'm going to be grinding this ball joint off, and I will also be taking off the bushings on this side. So I'm going to spray it down with orange degreaser, which for me works really well. So I'm going to give that a spray and then let it sit for a little bit. You know, each and every time that I start one of these mini projects on the Corvette, I always think about all the time and effort that it takes to get this done. So in this case, you know, if you think about all the work that was required to get this upper right control arm off, that was a lot. Now there's a lot of work that's required to refresh, refurbish, and get this thing back to new light conditions with new bushings and a new ball joint. So, you know, you just have to stick with it and keep going, and it's a good project, it's a good hobby, and hopefully it gets done without any major issues. Just gonna agitate that in. I'm not going to spend too much time on the ball joint because I'll be removing that. This orange degreaser is really effective and it's water soluble. You want to use a nice stiff cleaning brush there. Yeah, the orange degreaser that I'm using is made by Chemical Guys. It's sold in a 1-gallon container as a concentrate, so you can mix it to whatever strength you want. And I think on the package it says has different ratios in which you can mix it with water to come out with whatever strength that you want. The strength that I'm using here is it's 1/4 orange degreaser and the rest is water, and it works really well at that strength. I'm going to let that sit and then come back in a few minutes. Let's give this a rinse. Quick drying of this off. Most of it's degreased. Once again, you can see how short those bushings are. Same with those ones. The next step is going to be to grind the rivets off the top, and then hopefully be able to punch these rivets out through the bottom and pop off that ball joint. So that's going to be the next step on the agenda. So degreased, this will be wire brushed down to bare metal. Okay, we're working on getting these studs ground off, and maybe we won't have to do the ones on the other side, but let's get these ones first. So I'm just using a regular grinder attachment on an angle grinder, and let's get into it. Okay, there you can see that these have been ground off, and now I need to get a punch. This seems to be the right size, and it should go right in that area, and I'll see if I can punch it out. I tried a couple things on this. So first try, I'm using a punch and a hammer to try and knock the studs out of the ball joint. After that, I moved on to my air hammer and stuck in a pointed chisel top punch and tried to punch it out with that. And after that, I decided to move on to a drill and use progressive drill sizes, starting from a smaller size, moving up to a larger size to get the majority of material out of the spaces where the studs holding the ball joint were. So after that, I'll move on to getting this ball joint out. I'm just using some WD-40 here to act as a lubricant as I drill, and that way it'll keep my drill bits safe and sharp, and also hopefully cut through the metal rivets a little bit faster. I'm not at all saying that this is difficult to do. It just takes a few interesting strategies. I thought I'd be able to punch it out with the hand punch. Then I thought I'd be able to use the air hammer with that punch. I got some progress with that. And after that, I decided that not a bad idea to drill most of the rivets out of here. And then I get down to the final blow where I flip it over and use the air hammer with the chisel to knock off some rivet ends on the underside, and then I'm easily able to get this ball joint out. Okay, so I was able to use this air chisel, and I knocked off the bottom of the rivets, which are located here and in here and in here. So now I want to punch them out, and that should be good enough to get this ball joint out. So I also drilled them out here, and here, so you can actually see all the way through. And that one's not too bad either, so I should be able to get this thing off. We'll see how it goes. Just gonna get it set up here. So I'm using a 5-pound hammer, and I'm gonna smash those rivets out. It's always handy to have extra wood or 2x4s, or in this case some landscape ties. They're really handy to put on the floor to help brace these things as you do this type of work. So that's one out. Quarter-inch punch right through the hole. That one is out. One left to go. I'm getting close to getting this out. It's loose, all the rivets are loose. It's just a matter of pulling the ball joint through, which I'm going to do right now. And I'm gonna pop that out here. Okay, so here is the old ball joint. Don't need that anymore, so that's been on for 45 years. It's now off, and we're moving ahead. So these are 9/16, these little bolts at the end. Let's get those out. Gonna squirt this with a little bit of PB Blaster. Let that sit for a sec. Same with this guy here. And this will come out. This is off. That's off. And then you get this crazy old looking bushing. I'm going to be taking this rubber out, and then I'm going to be pressing this out of this bushing shortly. So let's try the other side. I've got a slightly larger wrench, going to give me a little bit more leverage to crack this nut at the end here. There we go. So once it's cracked, it's pretty easy to get off. There's that part, got a lock washer and the nut and the cap. Knock that off. So here are these parts. I do have brand new replacement parts which I'm going to use instead of reusing these ones. So the end caps are off. Next, getting these bushings out and then cleaning this thing up, putting in new bushings and getting it back installed. So like my other control arm, I'm going to be burning these bushings off, so this is going to get burned out here and here, and the same on that end as well. So for me, that's the easiest way to do them. So just to remind everybody that the heat level that is happening here is not that great, so there's no chance that it's going to damage the integrity of the control arm metal. It also happened to be a particularly cold and windy day outside, so I didn't necessarily get the right flame that I was looking for as far as a continual flame that would burn the rubber out, but at the same time I did make positive progress. Yeah, I'm just trying to get as much of the rubber from that bushing out as possible, because it's going to free up some space so that that cross shaft from the control arm can be removed. So it's also going to allow the bushing to be tapped out of the control arm a little bit better once the rubber is out. So that's the main reason behind it. Getting ready here for the next step of attempting to get the rubber out of this bushing prior to moving on to removing the bushing. I think there's lots of ways to get these bushings out. I started on it by trying to burn them out, but they didn't really catch on as great as possible. So I'm going to try and drill out as much as possible and then smack them out with this hammer here. And I don't believe I need to use the hydraulic press, which I will save for putting in the new bushings later on. So the goal is to get these bushings out, and then I'm going to grind all this down and restore it to looking as close as original as possible. So let's try and get those things out. I just happen to have a relatively old but still brand new set of drills, so I'm just going to pick a drill that looks like it'll fit, and this one is a 532, so we'll try that and see if that works. That one works. It's slightly large, so I'm going to change it to a thinner one. Okay, I'm going to try this one. It's a 9/64 inch drill bit. Once I've finished getting most of this rubber out from this bushing, I'll be able to hammer out the bushing from the control arm and also release the control arm shaft, and then work on getting the second bushing out. So that's what I'm about to do now, and here we go. With the control arm shaft in place, it's really difficult to get this bushing out, so it's hard to get any traction on it on the inside of the control arm. But once you get that moving in, there's a little bit of the tip of the bushing that sticks out. You can use something like a chisel and a hammer, or in my case I use this hydraulic air hammer, and I was able to get that out. And once that's out, it's too easy to wiggle the control arm shaft out, and the second bushing is really easy to get out in comparison. It's just a matter of hammering it out, and that will take care of the entire job. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of wiggling with the shaft, wiggle it back and forth, and you'll be able to easily pop it out from the control arm, and that way it'll give you really good access to the second bushing, which is too easy to get out after you remove the shaft. So that's it, and let's flip it around and get the bushing out. Just applying a little bit of penetrating oil for lubrication. Hopefully that'll make it slide out a little bit easier with a little bit of force from this hammer. So this is kind of the final step here. I'm gently tapping the bushing. Oh, there's the rubber that came out of the bushing. I'm gently tapping the bushing out of the control arm. I use a little bit of extra lubrication to make sure that it runs smoothly and doesn't damage it. So I'm really tapping quite lightly to get this bushing to slide out of the hole. Once most of it has come out of the hole, then I grab my air hammer and a chisel tip, and I just pop the rest of it out, which I'm going to do right now. There, the two bushings are out. The second one was a lot easier than the first, but we're good to go and move on to cleaning this thing. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. In this video, I took out the ball joint and the two bushings from the upper right control arm of that C3 Corvette. In the next video, I will be getting all this rust and dirt off of this thing, priming it and repainting it, and putting the new ball joint and the new bushings in. So thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Stick around for the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, send me a comment, and we'll see you all very soon in the next one.